Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 6 p.m. here in Cairo. This is Shuruq Bakir, and I'll accompany you through the latest development in the national and international arena, starting off with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli witnesses the opening of the 6th edition of the Egyptians Abroad Conference. Under the directives of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, 8 trucks began moving from Egypt towards Gaza to help Palestinian people. And in Ukraine, Russian missiles attack, injures 7 and destroys dozens of homes in Mykolaiv. Welcome back. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli witnessed the opening of the 6th edition of the Egyptians Abroad Conference under the slogan, "From everywhere, Egypt is the destination." The conference takes place over 2 days, August 3rd and 4th, with the participation of representatives of Egyptian communities abroad. Prime Minister Madbouli stressed the care file of the Egyptians abroad, which comes on top of priorities to Egypt and President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Prime Minister reviewed the efforts exerted by Egypt under the leadership of President el-Sisi to achieve the aspiration of the Egyptians towards better future and support the sincere Egyptians abroad. Madbouli assured that President el-Sisi always directed to exert utmost efforts to defend the rights and dignity of the Egyptians abroad, responding to their needs and providing them with all the facilities. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Egyptian Expatriates, Badr Abdel-Ati, asserted that it's time to unite the efforts of the Egyptian communities worldwide under one umbrella and one entity that expresses the aspirations of the Egyptians abroad in a coordinated and comprehensive manner. This came during Foreign Minister Abdel-Ati's speech at the opening session of the 6th edition of the Egyptians Abroad Conference that is being held with the participation of Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, number of ministers and members of Parliament and the Senate. Foreign Minister expressed his sincere appreciation, respect and pride to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi for all the efforts exerted to take care of the Egyptians abroad, as they are the first line of defense for the Egyptian national interest. Foreign Minister also hailed the political, economic and social modernization process that Egypt had witnessed over the past decades. Head of the State Information Service, Diya Rashwan, said that the service had completed its preparations for regulating the international media coverage of the Senate elections. He added that the voting remarkably attracted the attention of international media, with a huge number of global media offices filling applications to monitor the process. Rashwan noted that the license were given to 86 of Arab and foreign media entities, including 82 media institutions and 4 media service companies. He said that the Sisi was following up on the election process through an operation room to remove any obstacles facing media correspondents while serving and covering the Senate elections. The Interior Ministry concluded its preparations for securing the Senate election voting process inside Egypt and all procedures needed to facilitate the access of voters to the polling stations all over the country. Procedures were taken to facilitate the whole process for the elderly and people with determination. Security patrols were spread around the headquarters of the polling stations. The Senate 2025 elections will be held inside Egypt on Monday and Tuesday, the 4th and the 5th of August. In line with the presidential directives to support the Palestinian people, 8 trucks on Sunday began moving from Egypt towards Gaza. The Egyptian TV made the announcement, adding that around 328 trucks began entering the Gaza Strip via the Rafah border crossing. Earlier, Egyptian Air Force tons of humanitarian drop aid over Gaza. 4 Egyptian military aircrafts took off carrying tons of humanitarian and food aid and conducted airdrops operations across area in the Gaza Strip inaccessible by land. The airdrops integrate with the Egyptian efforts to provide humanitarian aid through the borderland crossing. In another development, the Palestine Red Crescent Society said on Sunday one of its staff members was killed and 3 others wounded in an Israeli attack on its Khan Yunis headquarters in Gaza. The Israeli Occupations Army chief has warned that war will not stop in Gaza if negotiations fail to quickly secure the release of hostages held in the Palestinian territory. Of the 251 people were taken to Gaza in October 2023, 49 remain in Gaza, 27 of them dead, and negotiations mediated by the United States, Egypt, and Qatar to secure a ceasefire and their release broken down last month. The remarks came against the backdrop of growing pressure, including from many of the hostages' families, to resume efforts to secure a ceasefire in the nearby 22-month genocide war. Israeli occupation forces killed at least 23 Palestinians seeking food today in Gaza as hungry crowds surged around 8 sites. As the malnutrition related to death toll also rose, southern Gaza's Nasser hospitals received bodies from roads to the 8 sites in Khan Yunis, which is operated by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the private U.S. and Israeli-backed contractor that took over aid distribution more than 2 months ago. The hospital also received 1 body near a GHF site in Rafah. Another 9 aid seekers were reported killed near the Moraj corridor. Israel occupation troops also opened fire towards crowds of Palestinians trying to reach the GHF's northernmost distribution point, leaving at least 5 killed and 27 wounded. The United Nations reported 859 people were killed near GHF sites from May 27 to July 31st, and the hundreds more have been slain along the routes of UN-led food convoys. More than 3,000 settlers stormed into Al-Aqsa Mosque, accompanied by Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and other Knesset members. Settlers performed Talmudic rituals and made a proactive tour in the mosque yards under heavy security measures. The occupation troops prevented citizens from entering the old city, and the Palestinian Authority considered the Israeli incursion into Al-Aqsa Mosque as a dangerous escalation to the genocide war and starvation policy against Palestinians in Gaza. It warned that the Israeli Occupation Authority is racing against the time to bring into a failure the international consensus on activating the 2-state solution. The Palestinian Authority called on the international community to shoulder its ethical and legal responsibility to stop Israeli occupation practices against Palestinians. Moving to Syria, renewed clashes in southern Syria's Druze majority Suwaida province have killed at least 2 people on Sunday in the first deadly incident since a ceasefire last month. A ceasefire put an end to the week of bloodshed, which killed 1,400 people, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. But the situation remained tense, flaring into violence again on Sunday. Syria's defense ministry and the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces traded blame over an attack in the northern city of Manbij, casting a shadow over a landmark integration deal they signed in March. The defense ministry accused the SDF of carrying out a rocket barrage on one of the army's outposts in the city's countryside, injuring 4 troops and 3 civilians, according to the state news agency. Sana, it described the attack as irresponsible and without justification. A Russian missile strikes on the city of Mykolaiv in southern Ukraine injured at least 7 people and destroyed or damaged dozens of homes and civilian infrastructure buildings. Details in the following report. Moving to some economy, Egypt topped North African countries' tourism revenue for 2025 with record numbers of tourists. In a report by Africa 360 News site reported record numbers of tourists to North Africa, which was reflected by a hike in tourism revenue. It said that the total tourism revenue in Egypt, Morocco, and Tunisia reached $15.6 billion by the end of the 2025, an increase of 19.52% compared to the same period last year. It said Egypt alone recorded $8.05 billion of tourism revenues. The report said Egypt recorded a 22% increase of tourism revenues during the first half of the year, in line with the 25% increase in the number of visitors to the country. Egypt's polls closed higher today, aimed at purchases by local investors and local and Arab corporations against sell-offs by Arab and foreign corporations. The market capital of listed companies added 8 billion Egyptian pounds, reaching 2.4 trillion pounds at the end of the transaction. The benchmark index EGX 30 rose 0.22% above the 34,272 point mark. The equal weighted indices EGX 70 and EGX 100 climbed 0.85% and 0.66% respectively. Moving to the sports, where Lionel Messi suffered an injury and was removed in the 11th minute of Inter Miami's League Cup penalties kicks victory over Mexico Necaxa. The 38-year-old Argentinian superstar forward appeared to be having a treatment on his upper right leg or groin before making his exit under his own power and walking to the locker room. Inter Miami won 5-4 on the penalties after the 10-man teams played to a 2-2 draw after full time. Messi led Inter Miami to the inaugural League Cup crown in 2023, just after his arrival with the MLS club.
Here's has a chance. His shot goes in on its home ground and on the set piece. This ball whipped in. Tie game.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was it for this edition of the news. Best regards from me, Shuru Bakir. Thank you for watching.